product market fit, right? When you are on that exploration, what are the major differences that you will observe between enterprises, which are large enterprises, and startups? How, yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, to a certain degree, I mean, there's a few variables here that matter.
Mm-hmm.
So I've not really worked in startups as such, but I did work at Melbourne Uni, and Melbourne University is not a startup, but I worked in a small area of Melbourne University where they kind of had a bit of a incubator going on where we wanted to find a market for leadership coaching, not a digital product. This is just doing leadership training for the department or the Center for Workplace Leadership. And there was a process for us to figure out what is the best place for us to invest, for us to deliver some kind of leadership training. Who should we target? Whereas right now I work on Jira Service Management, and we're talking about how we can better serve HR teams. And we already have other products in our suite that can work for HR teams in different ways and in different ways, shapes, and forms. There's so many different products going on with so many different markets. It can be a bit more intricate, but ultimately there's a few things that will always be there. The first thing, and this is the most important thing, are the preconceptions that everyone has around where the opportunities are and what the solution should roughly look like. It's pretty much never the case unless you're a founder that someone will say, hey, I want you to solve a problem in this area, and I have no idea what it is. People always have an idea, and that idea is 99% of the time wrong to some degree. It might be completely wrong. It might be wrong around the details, but they're generally shooting in the right direction. So with working at Melbourne Uni, the problem was they thought all the money was with executive education. They're saying, okay, we're a university, we can teach CEOs about leadership. But then we spoke to a few people in that area, and it turns out there's a few people that do that in our country, and they are all the people that get to do that. Everyone else is trying to get in there, but there's only about 10 or 20 people that really do leadership training, and they have a very strong reputation. It's all word of mouth. We either try and get into a market that won't let us in, or we try and hire these people. We have zero leverage. They could basically leave at any time and take all our clients with them. So it makes no sense. So there's that conversation of saying, hey, I know you think this is the idea, but this is actually not a good idea, and we have to convince you of that. The other side is then the tech side, where if you're working at a tech company like Atlassian, most people are pretty tech savvy, but you get different people with different backgrounds. You work with PMs who are more or less technical, designers tend to be less technical, engineers tend to be very technical, and they all have gaps in their knowledge. So that's another place where people say, oh, but this should be cheap. All you have to do is build a page. You're like, yes, but it's a page that has additional front end, back end, there's platform components. It's actually, 3 years for 2 teams, literally multiple millions of dollars, even though you think it's just a page. That's another area where if people are more technically fluent and they understand that stuff, their expectations can be easier to shift, or they'll be better aligned with you. And then the last thing is, yes, the complexity of your business model. So that also plays in, and that just comparing, something like Atlassian to where I worked before, which was Quantium, to then, market research places where I worked before, very different dynamics there. So I think those are the 3 big things. And then the size, but I'll leave that. I think that's less important than the other 3.
Understood. Pretty much there are kind of, as you mentioned, there are a lot of variables that play here when you are kind of doing this exploration between startups and enterprises. And both of them have some advantages and some disadvantages also. So you have to play your strengths if you are in a startup, if you're going for this product market fit, whereas in enterprise or bigger enterprises, one of the key things is that there will be many people whom you will have to convince, I guess. And, even if you have found the product market fit, how to convince them that your big idea is good idea can be very challenging. And as you also mentioned, right, most of the times people have this feeling in their mind that their idea is good, but because they have not gone into the details, so on that, it looks kind of attractive, but probably when you go into the details, the devil will be out there. Okay, so interesting.